Good afternoon and welcome to TUC0's Talks. This is day one, episode one. I am very excited about what we have coming forward. We're talking about leadership. And, over my time, I've just had some great leaders. I've had some people ask me questions. What exactly did you learn in the military? One of the things I learned is how little I actually knew and how little I was actually taught about leadership. Back when I was growing up, we just did not discuss it very much, especially in college. It was more information-wise and less about the leadership. And during my time in the Air Force, we spent a little time talking about leadership. We definitely thought we were putting ourselves in the right places, but we were more worried about management than leadership. It really wasn't until my time getting with the Army that I really learned what true leadership was. And leadership's about your people. If the old adage, if you look around and no one is following you, then you're not leading anyone. People think that because you're in the military, you are a dictator, you tell people what to do and they do it, and it could not be further from the truth. And so during this, I'd like to talk to all the new leaders, those that, and when I say new, I don't mean age-wise, I mean new in the environment. We all begin in our first steps, whether it is our supervising 3 people in our first job, or whether we're supervising 7 or 50 or 100 or 1,000, we all enter that new stage of leadership. And so we'll walk through exactly what we should be looking for. But for today, I'd like to focus in on that leader of maybe 25 to 50 people. What do you do in a staff meeting? What do you do going forward to bring everyone together? How do you develop that quote unquote culture that everybody's talking about? And how do we get there? And really, it all starts in the staff meeting. This is where you're going to set expectations. This is where you're going to ask for information. But more importantly, this is where you're going to hear how your people are doing and where you're going to be able to start being that empathetic listener, the person that can shut their mouth and not tell everybody what they want to hear, but what they can actually stop and listen to what their people are saying. And then from there, that's when you sort of focus in on, hey, how do I get into the office and what am I looking for and how do I create it and what kind of questions do I ask? There's nothing worse than a boss going into an office, not knowing anyone's name, not knowing what anybody does, not knowing what the issues are, and then they just seem so disconnected and people lose it. So again, it goes back to the staff meeting, which sounds so bad when you hear from it, but as you pick up in leadership words, then you'll totally understand. So follow me. Let's talk through it, and then I'd love to hear from people and let me know, what do you think? All right, so first is you walk into a meeting and a boss comes in and says, well, I don't have an agenda for this. I think we're just going to talk about it and we'll wing it. That is absolutely the worst possible thing you could do. And the reason I'm saying that is people are taking time to come and listen to you and sort of understand what it is that you want and how you want to go forward with it. So don't ever go into a staff meeting without an agenda. Have an agenda. Have a meeting, be prepared, give people direction on what it is exactly that you want to hear, and then let them take that information and give you it. Now, you'll start giving and taking at this point, and they may not give you exactly what you asked for or interpreted what you were looking for, and man, that's okay. Just be patient. Give them small bits of information, tell them that you appreciate that and what about this, and sort of guide them down the path. And people will start picking it up pretty quickly. Make sure you have questions that you'll ask and give those questions to the people right up front. Walk into the desk, hey, how's it going? How are you? How's the family? How is the office? How are you working with people? One of the things I'd really love is to fully understand X, whatever X is, and sort of give them that question and say, you know what, I'd like you to be able to talk about that at some point, maybe even during the staff meeting. What do you think? You think you can bring that together? Yes? Okay, great. And then you get in the staff meeting and be like, all right, hey, Bob, one of the things that I really am looking forward to understanding is X. Can you explain that? And man, you have just set that person up for success. You've allowed them to research the project and bring it to you and to give it to you and to present it to you. You haven't put anybody on the spot, and it really opens the door. So that's a great idea of developing that person and allowing them to have confidence and move forward. One of the things in the staff meeting is you want to have time where you're asking for certain things, but you also want to have time that is available for them to give the updates that they feel are important. If you're continually asking so many questions that you're sort of guiding the meeting every day and every minute, it doesn't give them the freedom of maneuver. And you want to allow them to do that because honestly, their people are expecting their boss to be able to come to you and with that information. And so make sure that you give people the freedom to bring them whatever it is that they feel is important. And make sure that all departments contribute. So if you've got somebody who is in charge of 3 different offices, and then they are only presenting one side of their office and the other 2 are not being presented, make sure you call that out. And obviously not in front of everybody, but the next day go by and be like, hey, I'd really love to hear what's happening with that 2nd and 3rd department. Can you brief me up next week on that? And then that will give them the ability to walk through that. But don't let your subordinates, the people reporting directly to you, fail their people by only presenting what they know the best. And it is always going to happen. They always want to present what they know the most about. They don't want to look bad in front of the boss, in front of their peers, and just make sure that you help them with that. Make sure that when you're talking through and when you're finishing up and when you're wrapping up, that you give them the key components of what they need to accomplish this week. So when you're walking out the door, you should be saying, hey, I really love this. Hey, Bob, I'm really excited about you contributing to this week. And next week, we're going to ask about it. It's going to be great, and we'll move forward. And then write it down and ask the following week. There's nothing worse than a boss that says, hey, I'd really love to know about this. And then they spend all this time and effort on figuring out what's going on. And then you don't even ask about it. And that is just frustrating because they're spending hours on that. They're asking other people. And then the boss will come back to their people, your subordinate will go back to his people or her people. And then the boss didn't ask about it. It wasn't important. And they're just like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? And so make sure that you follow up next week. And then it's that summary statement at the end of the time of, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm focused on right now. Give other people the ability to focus on things, but allow them to know what's most important to you. That one summary statement of, here's where we're going. And then report back to them next week of, hey, I spent a lot of time thinking about this, or I spent a lot of time trying to research this project, and here's where I think we're at, and here's where I'd like to move forward on it. There's nothing worse than your people thinking, what does the boss actually do anyway? He's just walking around talking to people. He's in his office or her office, and we just don't even know. So that is a problem that you can alleviate early. So when you're walking into the staff meeting, you need to have certain people in certain places. The first person is, you need to have a note taker, and that person needs to be either on your right or your left. It doesn't have to be directly next to them, but close enough that you can look at that person and have a conversation in. And so that note taker is going and when somebody says something that they're impassioned about or that they have a question, look at your note taker. Have that person's name and the note taker, and you say, Heather, that's a great question. Can you write that down? And let's sit down after this and talk about that. And then you have to empower Heather to give her 10 minutes after the meeting, no matter what, to sit down with you, and all those things that you said were important, she needs to come back to you and say, hey, this is what you need to do this week. This is how you need to accomplish it. This is what I recommend to be able to do that. And this is not a person that is a secretary that's writing things down. This is a person who is responsible, who can delegate, and who can give you open and honest feedback. So that'll be an important person to make sure that you have. All right. The last part of what the note taker is responsible for is writing down all the minutes and then emailing it out to everyone. And it should look very close to that agenda that you had when you came into the meeting. So that agenda is going to be emailed out prior to, probably 24 hours out, so that everyone knows, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. And then after, this is what we did talk about, and this is what we came up with, and here are the action items, and this is what the boss needs to accomplish this week, and that needs to go out. Everyone needs to know that you are responsible for that, and then you need to execute that. That's how you're going to build trust. That's how you're going to build relationships, and that's how people know what it is that you do. All right, so when you're sitting down in the meeting, and I get it, we are technology driven, and it is important to be able to know what's going on, and you don't want to miss an email and all those things. But shut your laptop, turn off your phone, put it down underneath the table. Do not put it on the table, put it under the table so you can't see it. Shut it off. If there's something going on, and if there's something so critical that you can't miss it, have somebody else on that task of, hey, contact this person, I'm out. And that person can walk in the room and grab you if it's important. People who are looking at their phone, you're not paying attention. But if someone walks in the room, leans over into your ear and says something, and you say, hey, and you hand it off to somebody else, listen, I've got to take this real quick. I apologize. I'll be right back. And that's a way you can get information quickly if you absolutely have to. 9 times out of 10, that's never the case, but work on that. Turn your phone off. Give 100% on the speaker. Listen to the speaker. And write down something that they said that is critical for you to understand or you to know, either that you want to remember or that you want to ask, and have that down. So you can even repeat back what somebody said after they're done talking. Hey, that is a great point. We absolutely need to do that. Thank you for sharing. And that will make their day. Too many times you see people sitting back, especially the bosses, people are talking and they're flipping through their phone, doing other things, not even paying attention. And that is the most frustrating thing. You just want to reach around the table and just slap your boss and be like, are you even listening? I put all this time and effort and energy into it and you're not even listening. So make sure you are there. I like to not ask questions until the presenter asks for questions. Some people are good talkers and some people are not. Some people can present and some people can answer it and some people can't. Just hold your question, write it down. And then when they're finished and they say, hey, do you have any questions? Or does you as the boss say, does anyone else have any questions for the presenter? Then you can allow those questions. But don't even allow the agitation and allowing people to throw other people off. That's not a good look, and it can be detrimental. And the last thing I will tell you as a leader is don't be a dictator. Don't be a cowboy. Don't be the cool guy. Be an empathetic listener. It is so important for you to be a leader, which is leading people. And people will follow you. They will run through walls for you if they think you care and if you're there to help them. But if they think you're about you, if they think that you're going to put your feet up and you want to be seen and you're just the coolest person in the world in your mind, 9 times out of 10, everybody else in that room doesn't think you are. And they're just thinking you're arrogant and you're all about yourself and you're not about them. So I've seen it time and time again. People think leaders are just the end all be all. They're not. They're the chief servants. That's their job. Your job is to listen and to understand what people are going through and empower them to get things done. Your job is to remove obstacles. And so if you can get to that point and if you can understand that, then life gets super easy and you can work it from there. So, well, that's all I have for our meetings for leaders. That's episode 1 of TUC0's Talks. I am excited about getting into these. I have about 12 different episodes working on leaders. Next time, we're going to talk about giving permission to leave on time. And making sure that we all understand as leaders that people are going to want to stay as late as you do, but you need to make sure that you ensure people can leave on time or early and not try to hold them up. Again, really appreciate y'all taking the time to listen. Hope you enjoyed it. And this is TUC0 Wright checking off.